let's go on to the next graph if we can. This is the same graph for nuclear construction starts, but I've overlaid it here with the trend in wind energy additions to generating capacity. One of the differences with wind, by the way, that is sort of interesting is that the construction start and adding it to the grid usually happens in the same year. In fact, it often happens within a period of a few months rather than this sort of 10-year time frame. So I think it's actually, even though it appears to be a different thing I'm measuring, it's actually quite a fair comparison. You can see here that there was, again, the something over 5 gigawatts of new nuclear construction starts in 2006 and 20 gigawatts of wind capacity added in 2007. The other thing that, of course, is very striking is that the nuclear trend is sort of bumping along the bottom of the graph there, whereas you've got this tremendous momentum now in the wind energy industry, which is growing now at an annual average rate of over 30% per year. So let me now spend just a few minutes on this comparison, because I think, as Will said at the beginning, this really is the critical question. There are multiple options in front of us in terms of converting the electricity system so that it does not require coal-fired power plants. And inevitably, it's going to be a mix of different technologies. The interesting question, of course, is what is the nature of that mix? Is it going to be more nuclear, more wind, more solar, more geothermal, more efficiency? What is the mix going to be? The thing that is very striking, and I'm just using wind as one example because it's sort of the leading edge, but there are two different solar technologies plus geothermal coming right behind it, is that because it is this modular, decentralized technology, where you go through new generations of equipment every 2 to 3 years, you're getting these tremendous learning curves underway. And the costs are coming down rapidly. And these growth rates are in effect becoming self-propelling because these industries are now developing a substantial amount of economic as well as political momentum, and more countries around the world and states across the United States are adopting the new electric utility laws that favor the development of these energy sources. The other thing that is very striking when you look at what is going on in the energy markets today is that there is very strong public opinion behind renewable energy. There's a great enthusiasm behind this. I find it particularly among young people at the universities. That is one thing that the nuclear does not have going for it. It certainly does have a very strong industrial lobby. It has a number of advocates, but it does not have the sort of level of enthusiasm. Let me just switch to the final graph if we can. We've heard over and over this morning that nuclear provides 15% of electricity. Renewables worldwide provide about 20% of the world's electricity. Much of that hydro, but a rapidly growing proportion of it being bioenergy and wind power. But I think when you're looking to understand the future, you don't look at the installed share of the current market. I mean, that's looking at the world through a rear view mirror. What is really interesting, if you want to know where the computer industry is going, where the internet is going, where biotechnology is going, you look at annual growth rates. And here you can see that nuclear is literally growing even slower than oil production is. Nuclear at 1.1% versus 1.7% for oil. Bioenergy at 17.6%. Wind 24.4%. And solar photovoltaics at over 36% per year. There is an incredible economic dynamism behind these numbers. And I think the thing that many people who are assessing nuclear and promoting nuclear as having to be a very large share of the non-carbon emitting mix going forward are missing is that the real weight in terms of technology development, in terms of momentum in the marketplace, including where the venture capital funds are flowing is now in the renewable energy sector. This is an incredibly dynamic and, frankly, in terms of new construction, a much, much larger industry than the nuclear industry is. We've just done a new estimate that in terms of investment in new installed capacity, not just power generation, but also heating, it was $70 billion put into renewable technologies, with wind being the largest single sector last year. That's much larger than what is going into the nuclear industry these days. And again, the key thing in terms of going forward is understanding what it means to have double-digit growth rates in modular, potentially mass-produced technologies. Now, it's true that in the last 2 to 3 years, because of the rising cost of cement and steel, all generating technologies, nuclear, coal, renewables, everything has gone up temporarily. But in the case of renewables, that is masking an underlying rate of improvement of about 10 to 15% each time production is doubling. And for many of these technologies, production is doubling in 3 years or less. So you're going to see a steady decline in cost and increasing economic competitiveness. In fact, I would argue, based on the Keystone numbers that Tom was presenting, that wind actually is already more economical today. Now let me quickly dispose of this baseload argument. You know, it's said that, well, renewables don't provide baseload power, so it can't be a replacement for coal, so it's not as good as nuclear is. Again, we've got the rearview mirror out again. What is actually going on in terms of the technology marketplace? There is tremendous momentum now in terms of developing storage. You probably saw the New York Times piece over the weekend about massive growth in wind farms in Texas. It's now growing to the point where there does need to be storage added to the system. So compressed air storage is likely to be added. There are new kinds of gas turbines that can quite economically provide backup for not only wind farms, but for solar energy technologies as well. The idea that we are incapable, with all of the modern technology that exists today, to take these intermittent energy sources and form a reliable grid based on a whole array of different options, putting in some solar thermal, some photovoltaic, some bioenergy, some wind power, having it all mixed together with a good direct current, high-capacity grid system, having a lot of decentralized power in terms of household photovoltaics, microturbines in businesses and homes. The idea that we cannot come up with actually a better way of managing a stable grid than these really clunky old coal and nuclear generators, the so-called base loads that we've had to rely on in the past, I think is to not be thinking the way those in the high technology sector tend to think. And that's why, you know, I think that one of the big leading economic indicators for the energy sector right now is to look what's happening in Silicon Valley. The people that created everything from the semiconductor to the personal computer to the internet, the entrepreneurs and the venture capitalists are now focusing much of their energy on clean energy technology, much of it renewable technology. And that's why these tremendous growth rates, I think, are virtually guaranteed to continue for a long time to come.